Hey all, Board Game Rants here. We'll find everything solo, tabletop gaming, and more. Here is an overview of Nemesis from a solo perspective, giving an idea of what this game is all about. Here we go. All right, there's the ship. That is the Nemesis right there, the big old board you see right in front of you. So we'll start with that, because it looks a little kind of samey, I guess. It's just a big black board, but it starts lighting up. You're going to have red tokens on there, and you're going to have yellow tokens on there, and you're going to have malfunction tokens on there, and door tokens, and all sorts of tokens, and monsters and stuff are going to start appearing. These rooms are going to flip over as you start exploring the ship, and that's what you got around here. You got your central. This is where you wake up. This is your hibernation chamber, and you wake up, and there's alarms sounding everywhere. You've got this dead guy laying on the floor, big hole in their chest, and you know you've woke up into a situation here. You're a little foggy. You don't know where anything is. You kind of have an idea that on the back of the ship there are these 3 engines. You don't know if they're working or not. You know at the front of the ship determines where you're going, be it Earth or Mars or deep space. Kind of need to figure that one out sometimes too. Depends on your objective. And then around you, you have these corridors that lead to different rooms, or to the engines, or up through the center of the ship. In the center, if you just cut like a line right through the middle of this, it's a mirror image. So it looks a little funky, but it's actually the same on both sides. And so what you have is on the outskirts of the ship, you got these rooms that have a number 1 on them, and they all have number 1s. All of the rooms on the outside of the ship have number 1 on them. And then there's 11 of them. And in the middle of the ship, you've got room tiles that have 2s on them that are surrounding the hibernation chamber here. So those are, everything comes out randomly, of course, but all of the number 1 tiles come out every single game. So you always know you're going to have your number 1 rooms. And the number 2 rooms, however, there's a total of 9 tiles. So you never know in which game what 5 you're going to be playing with and what 4 you're not going to be playing with. And that's why over here, there's a stack of 4 tiles not in this game. And by what rooms I'm talking about, these guys are the rooms I'm talking about. So you got this handy dandy sheet here, basic rooms number 1. So in every game, you're always going to have an armory so you can recharge your weapon. Comms room so you can send a signal. That oftentimes is something that you're supposed to do as an objective. Send a signal, let people, warn somebody. Something bad's going down. Emergency room. Treat your wounds. Evacuation section. Try to enter an escape pod. There's an evacuation section, A and a B. And fire control system. Initiate the fire control procedure. Got a generator where you can initiate self-destruct sequence or stop it. The laboratory where you can analyze an object. Very handy for when you're trying to figure out what's coming after you and discover some weaknesses in them. The nest, there's always a nest on board with some eggs. Sometimes you gotta grab an egg and jump in a hibernation chamber and or an escape pod and take off with it. Sometimes that's an objective. And sometimes you're supposed to wipe out the nest. Storage. There's always you can always search for an item in the storage. All these rooms tend to come with things you can search for in them as well, but the storage is just, you can kind of search for any item over and over and over again. It's a little more expensive. Surgery. You perform a surgery procedure. Well, you hope you don't have to find that room, but sometimes you get infected and you got a little baby alien you're hosting, and you want to make sure you get it out of you. And then there's the backside. That's where it says the additional rooms, 2. You'll see 9 different types of rooms there, but in any given game, you're only going to be playing with 5 of them. And the special rooms, that's the front of the ship. There's the cockpit. And then you got your engines all in the back there. And so, of course, every game that you play comes with some engines and a cockpit, which is handy. Now, you're going to be spending your time running around trying to figure out where you are, what's going on. Because ultimately, you don't really know that there's aliens on board, but you're going to find out really quick. And as you're moving around, you're going to start hearing things. That's going to be represented by rolling for noise. So as you move around, you get to roll this very often. This is D10. You got 1 through 4 on both sides of that, and you got this danger symbol on one and this silent symbol on another. That's usually your best friend. That one right there. Got a 10% chance of rolling that bad boy. But in general, you'll be moving around and rolling this die. And then it's going to dictate where you hear something. So as you're moving around, things start realizing, hey, there's a presence around here. Things start stirring around in corridors. And you'll put these noise tokens in corridors as you're moving. And that's where this beautiful yellow color starts developing in your game. And eventually you start moving and you're going to roll, and this actually is a danger symbol, and that means sound rises up all over you, around you. So anywhere where there isn't sound. So right now there's a noise token here, and if I rolled that, that means I'd have to put a noise token here as well. But it wouldn't necessarily draw out a bad guy. It's only when you roll a particular number and there's a noise token on it already, that's when the bad things start happening. That's when you have to remove all your noise tokens that are around you, because you're going to see what's coming. And you get to draw out of this, well, normally this bag. It comes with this bag that you keep these little monster chits in. These guys here, which determines, like, this is the queen. It's not a very good chit there. But the bag is kind of, sort of impractical to play with. In my opinion, it's kind of small. It's hard to mix things up. It's way easier to take this big old cup here and your cup of aliens. You don't want to mess that up with your cup of noodles for lunch. And it's so easy to mix and grab stuff out of that one. So that's why that's there. But it comes with this cute little bag. Maybe let's go around the board here. And now that you know you're going to be pretty much moving around, noise is going to be developing and things are going to pop out at you. Let's just talk real quick about what we got around the board. Here's the miniatures. That's going to represent what pops out at you. So you got yourself a queen and a breeder and some adults. And then over here, I've got a creeper and some larvae. In the middle there's some eggs, some egg tokens. And then if you're lucky enough to kill an alien, you get to put a little dead body alien, and you could analyze that and find out some of their weaknesses. And then those are the different alien chits. You got adults, larvae, creepers, breeders. And on here, now you can craft things here. You can craft things in this game. So if you have a card that has this symbol and a card that has this symbol, you can craft an antidote. There's also like a flamethrower in there you can build. Very fun. Solo co-op objective cards. There's a stack of those. It comes with 7, and you're going to draw 2, and you get to pick one. And then the character draft. There's 6 different characters you can play, and you're going to draw 2 and pick one as well. And then up here, this is something that comes with Kickstarter stuff. Ignore that for now. That's not part of the main game. But this you get to actually use. You don't want to be using it, but you'll slide cards in this thing, and then it'll take the red out of the card so you can read and see if you're infected or not. Very fun. Not fun when you find out you're infected. And then over here you've got the extra tiles. Remember the extra stack of 4 2 tiles, and then here is 2. There's 4 kind of hidden back there of these exploration tokens. Each tile that you put out there, you notice, comes with a little exploration token, which tells you the state of the room. Usually how many items are in that room, what's maybe wrong with the room, stuff like that. Is it on fire? Is it, well, let's see, let's take a look. Like these tokens say, flip this over, whatever room it was on. If you're playing solo, you take that number, you divide it by 2 and round up. So there would be 2 items to be found in a room, and this particular room would be malfunctioning, so you couldn't really use it. And this one says, you got slimed. And there's 2 rooms, or two items in that room to be found. And I can show you what that means here in a second. But there's, again, my cup of aliens. Here we've got markers that determine, well, they help you keep track of ammo and damage. These are generic markers as well that keep track of all sorts of things, like what round you're in, or if you're slimed, that sort of thing. Then we got an event deck. You're gonna have to, at the end of each round, so to speak, you're gonna have to draw an event. This is a little player aid. These are some printed out player aids. Don't come with the game. And then here is where I'd be picking. So these are this is my 2 solo objectives that I picked, and you hold on to those until an intruder first pops out on the board. Once you get that far in a game where an intruder pops out, I mean, it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it won't be very far at all, but as soon as an intruder pops out, then you have to make a decision. Am I going to be trying to do the cutting off the head objective or emergency post-mortem objective? So you don't have to decide on these right away, but eventually you'll have to pick one. And here, these are the character draft cards. I picked 2 of those. And so you start the game with this, and you can look at these and you can just try and decide, okay, which one of these guys would best be able to handle this. And in my case, I picked the soldier. I think the soldier will have a better chance at completing these objectives than the scout will. The scout's fantastic at flying around the ship. And so, like, if there was something here that said you have to explore all the rooms or something, then I might pick the scout. But I'm probably going to be needing some firepower, so I'll be picking the soldier in this case. So moving on. So yes, again, there's 6 different characters, and I'm playing the soldier. And they all have the same board. All looks the same except for the graphic there. But they all have a little section here where it keeps track of how many wounds you've been taking, or it keeps track of if you sent the signal. You get to put this little thing. It says, oh, I sent the signal. Ta-da! You put that there. Oh, I've been slimed. Ta-da! You put that there. If you start taking damage, you'll use this little marker. Okay, I got a light wound. Oh, I've taken another light wound. If you ever take a third light wound, boom, you got to draw a serious wound card. And those are not good. You can only take a few of those before you die. And then this will reset. Anyway, so this keeps track of stuff like that, as well as letting you know the basic actions that you can take in the game, which are move. I was showing you movement. And, you might have to shoot an alien. They all come with a basic weapon. The soldier, of course, comes with a little bit heavier weapon, which is nice, an assault rifle. This comes with more ammo than average and does more damage than average as well. But you can here's where you can craft. Again, you have to have found things that have these symbols on them in order to craft an antidote. Same thing for a taser or a flamethrower or a Molotov cocktail. And then again, back over here, this one, that means you have to discard a card to be able to take this action. Any card. Can't be a contamination card. This stack right here is just filled with cards that look like this. You'll have to maybe draw these if you get, for various reasons. And this is where you might have to slide this card in that gizmo I was showing you over here to see if you're infected. It'll take the red out and you'll be able to read if you've been infected or not. I mean, if you stare at the cards long enough and you got really good eyes, you can figure it out. But, you don't, you can ruin the spirit of the game if you want. So, the other thing that your characters come with are a deck of 10 cards. Now, these cards are, 5 of them are all about the same. Everybody's got a search ability. Everybody's got, now taking aim, that's more of a soldier thing. But about 5 of these cards, everybody's got 10 cards. This is not a deck builder, by the way. The only way this deck gets bigger is if you take on contamination cards and have to add them to your deck. Then they start to gum it up, and it decreases your actions and efficiencies, and you might be infected, which could kill you. But about 5 of these cards, again, are like search or repair, kind of generic repair actions. There's a few others, but then about 4 or 5 of them in each different class is somewhat unique to that particular class. Like this guy's just got a little more firepower, and so his cards will reflect that. So you playing the game will be drawing 5 cards at a time and playing those as you see fit, and then you'll be done with the round. You'll have to do some stuff like aliens out there will attack you if they can, and then you'll be scooching this little timer marker up here, and then you'll be drawing an event card, and then you get to draw up to 5 again and do it over and over and over again. But let's just keep continuing on here real quick to show you the rest of the stuff. We've got each character will come with different quest items, 2 of them. So at some point in the game, if you can fulfill this little doohickey and you spend a card, you can flip this over, and now the soldier, for instance, would have some armor, and everybody's got their own 2 little special cards there that can help you out. Serious wounds, here's yeah, these are bad. Once you've taken 3 serious wounds, if you ever take another wound in general, you die. And these are, you know, these things hamper you. This one crushes your leg, and so now it's harder to escape from intruders and whatnot. And there's other things that affect your body or your arm, so now you can't carry so much stuff. There's a little bit of a limitation here. Like this is telling me I can use this card in combat, and it's a heavy item, so it's going to take up 1 of my hand slots. All other items you can just sort of just keep on this little handy dandy tray. As many items as you want, except for the ones that say they're heavy there. And these are used to determine if something attacks you, and they're also used to determine if you've killed something. So like in this case, if you were trying to determine if something attacks you, you'd flip this card over and you look at these symbols. All these types of intruders would attack, and they would do this to you. This number up here, if ever you do damage to a creature, you flip over a card, and if you've done that much damage to a kind of a normal creature, anything except for the queen or the breeder or a breeder, it has to have had at least 5 damage on it, and it's dead. So this is kind of interesting in that creatures don't have just a set number of hit points. You'll damage them, and then you'll flip over a card and see if you killed it or not. So that's kind of cool. You know, all the adult aliens, for instance, are not created equal. Some are a little bit stronger or get a second wind, kind of, so to speak. If you ever fight the queen or a breeder and you damage it, you get to flip over 2 cards and add them together. So yeah, pretty tough to take out a queen or a breeder. As a quick example, let's say this mechanic is in a room with a adult alien there, and I would discard a card to shoot, and then I would take one of these and discard that ammo, and you roll this die. You see what you come up with. In this case, that's a hit symbol, so I would do a damage to it. In fact, then you get to look and see in my particular sawed-off shotgun, rolls of that are treated as 2 of that, which is 2 damage. So you would take 2 damage. We'd flip this card over, see if we... Nope, didn't manage to kill the alien that time. But this also has the other 6 sides. Basically, to put a hit on that guy or any alien, you have to roll at least their size or smaller. So if I rolled a creeper, that would be a miss, because creepers are smaller than adults. Of course, that is always a miss. This is always a hit. Usually always 2 hits, unless you have a real wimpy weapon. I would have to roll at least this to do a damage on that guy, but this would be a miss, and that would be a miss. And this would be a miss. So basically a 50-50 chance of hurting the alien there. So here's the item deck. So you've got these reds and these yellows and these greens. The reds in general are weaponry. The yellow tends to be a variety of items, and the green tends to be health, you know, keeping you healthy items. And then here's the little noise markers. Here's the malfunction markers you put on rooms if they're malfunctioning. Here's doors that might close behind you as you're moving around the ship, or you might close them to try and keep bad guys from coming at you. And then you got little fire markers here. This ship is in bad shape. And then lastly up here, you've got the intruder board. So the intruder board here is basically kicks in gear for the nest. There's 5 eggs in the nest, and so that's you'll keep track of that on this board. There is it shows you what each little symbol means, so it's kind of a little reference as well. And then here, if ever you analyze a character corpse or an intruder egg or an intruder carcass, you get to flip over one of these random intruder weaknesses and apply that for the game, because you've discovered something about the intruders, and now it gives you a little bit of an edge, which is very cool. And then you got some escape pods here that don't flip over and unlock until certain things happen, so you can jump on them and get the heck off the ship. There's one up there as well. And then here, if ever you initiate the self-destruct mechanism, this timer is going to start going down. And at the end of each round, you're going to go, and once it hits there, kablooey, you better be off that ship. Well, you're dead. And this as well is another timer. So really, at most, you've got 15 rounds before the game's over. And because this will scooch down. Once it crosses this, it means that the hibernation chamber is open to jump into. And on this track, once the little marker, if you initiate self-destruct, once the marker crosses this, if these pods aren't unlocked, it automatically unlocks them. Then you just got to find the rooms that allow you to get in them. Up here, this is where, so you start off headed towards B. You don't know where B is, and I have the whole stack here. Usually there's just one card here, but this has randomly decides where B and A and D and C are in any particular game. So for instance, right now, this particular game, this ship is headed to deep space. Well, you probably don't want to be headed to deep space. You probably want to be headed to Earth or something. So you may need to go up here, find out where you're headed, and then change the coordinates depending on your objective. And then down here, your engine rooms, these are either going to be working or not, and you don't know until you find out, is it working or is it damaged? And if you are meaning to stay on this ship and jump in the hibernation chamber, you got to make sure at least 2 out of these 3 engines are working. So you might need to go down there and fix those, but you don't know in the beginning. And as you're moving around, you'll move. Very basically, this is what you'll be doing more often than not, is moving, flipping over a tile, looking at this, and this is saying, okay, for solo anyway, you take the 2 divided by 2 is 1, so there's 1 item. And that's, you'll see these little numbers here. You'll just line these up. Where's the little arrow? There it is. Line it up with that arrow. That is telling me there is 1 yellow item in here. If I searched in here, I would get to choose from the yellow deck there. I'd pick 2 cards and keep 1. So so that's what this is telling me. It's also telling me the door closed behind me. So I would take door token and clunk. So now, unless I can open that, I can't go back. If there was a creature here, it would slam into that door and break the door before it came after me. So doors can be handy. They can also be a hindrance. And then again here in this particular room, I can discard 2 cards and take its action. And so you'll be looking at your cards every game. And oh, and by the way too, then the other normal thing, each time you move into a room, almost every time anyway, you roll your noise marker, and I'd put a little noise marker in there. So in the beginning of the game, a lot of times you're sneaking around pretty well, but then eventually you're just making too much noise and things start coming out at you and they find you, and then you're in a whole heap of trouble. In this game, you'll find you're more often just running rather than trying to kill intruders because they're very difficult to kill. But I do have the soldier, so in this game I'll likely be doing some killing. And so you'll be moving around the room looking for whatever it is. Like for instance, I will have grabbed that blue character corpse token and put it in my left hand before I took off out of that room, and I'd be looking for the surgery room, and I got to deliver him to the surgery room, and then the game ends when, well, there's a bunch of different things happen, but essentially you need to get off the ship and survive and have completed your objective and not be infected. Of course, it will not affect if you are survive or not, and you can get off the ship either by hopping back in here and making sure the engines are okay, or hopping in an escape pod. And then it doesn't matter what's going on in the ship, as long as you get on that escape pod successfully. And if you've completed your objective, you've won. You don't win much in this game. That is certainly my experience with it. Another way you can lose is if you ever have to put out, there's 8 malfunction markers and there's 8 fire tokens. You'll have to put those out for various reasons, and if there's ever a time you got to put out a 9th malfunction token or a 9th fire token, the ship just disintegrates. And you lose. So that is the game of Nemesis in a nutshell. I have done a playthrough. If I've done any more, they'll be up there for you to take a look at just how this game plays. And other than that, I'm Board Game Rants. I appreciate you watching. I'm out.